I'm actually fine with this, I'm dealing with this absolutely fine. But then you look at some of the things you maybe done, or some of the things you maybe said, or some of the things you maybe felt at the time, and then you realise that probably wasn't. I wasn't right then. I wasn't actually dealing with it well, and I was probably struggling with it more than I thought I was struggling with it. I get the dog into the bowling club, and I was only in myself. I was only in the bowling club, which again probably was a red flag that I was sitting in the bowling club myself. In Coilin. Jake was tied up outside. I gave him a couple of biscuits, and this boy, I can picture him coming in. He must have been about 80, and he comes shuffling in.
Hi, I'm Jason McGinn, and you're listening to That Mental Health Chat, a podcast brought to you by the mental health charity Back On Side. So today we have Ross County Chief Exec, Stephen Ferguson. So Stephen, how are you?
I'm great, thanks very much. Nice to see you.
Aye,
been a long time.
It certainly is. Aye. Back in the days when I knew Stephen when he played for Ayr Utd. Do you remember the days fondly, Stephen?
I do off the pitch, and maybe not so much on the pitch. It was certainly a good time where I met a lot of good people like yourself, and had some fun down there as well. So no, it was a good time for me off the pitch, but maybe not so good on the pitch. Ayr United fans will tell you that as well.
Well, I remember the fondly, certainly.
Good fun.
So basically, there's been a wee bit of kind of a connection with the club up here at Ross County and Back On Side. So I think one of the first things it'd be good to kind of get us chatting about is like how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly found out about Back On Side a while ago now, and it was actually just picking up a lot of stuff on social media. I seen how proactive they were, and I seen how clear their messaging was, and I think certainly when you're involved in this side of the fence now, and you're dealing with a wee bit, or even it doesn't really matter what side of the fence you're on, whether it be on the football side or non-football side, you've got this duty of care to your staff, and you've got this duty of care to everybody that's involved at the football club, and we just feel that we offer a lot of different things at the football club, but I felt what On Side what we're talking about was really lined up for where we were thinking, but also could take it to that next level, to what we were offering, and really spoke to Libby and was really enthused by her enthusiasm for what she was doing and for what was happening. So it was really went hand in hand that we felt it was a really good fit at Ross County. I personally thought it was a great thing to be involved in, and certainly to be able to offer as another option for our staff and our players up here. Yeah.
So in terms of like, I know obviously because you've got that playing background for your career.
Loosely. Yeah, but some folk will say that.
No, but when you think back, do you think much has changed in the game for like when you played to now in terms of that sort of side of looking after the players and their welfare?
Yeah, 100% the game's changed, because the game's changed how society's changed as well, and how in the community's changed. So it's much more apparent that how important positive mental health is, I suppose, where it was always important, but it just wasn't have that. It just didn't have that maybe importance is the wrong word, but it didn't fit very high up the ladder when people were talking about working in football clubs. You would look much more at the technical side, or you would look to focus just on what was going on in and around the football club, or what was happening during 90 minutes. Where now I think there's much more, and rightly so, awareness to the bigger picture, and what people are going through away from the pitch, not just when they're here at the football club. And I think that's really positive, I've got to say, and not only just in football but in society in general. That I think it's so important that we are much more aware, and we're much more positive around mental health, because we can speak about, when we hear some of the horrible stories that people that are struggling with their mental health, but I think it's important also that we focus on how we can help positive mental health as well, and how we can actually put things in place almost as a prevention, you know, rather than waiting on things getting to where it's not so good and people are struggling, to actually being able to identify that earlier, and also being able to have things on offer that people can access, or people can certainly speak to, and I think that then will contribute to a better working environment and a better home life environment if people feel that there's an option there. And maybe that's the thing. I think there seems to be a heck of a lot more options now than there was certainly when I was playing, and I think that's a positive.
I think even for what you touched on there was like the positive outcomes, working on positive mental health. So you don't have to wait until there's a crisis. And I think if you build that right environment, especially within a club, you're going to see positive outcomes on the pitch. So I think not just for an individual's point of view, but collectively as a club, you're going to see benefits of being able to put things in place and look after players.
100%. I think it's all linked. Right. I think it's all joined up, and I think the more that you can do, I think you will reap the benefits. I think us at Ross County are a really good example. I mean, when we're recruiting players and staff, they're not always on our doorstep. So people have signing for a new club or getting a new job is always a big thing in anybody's life. It's a big thing if you're staying at home and you're not having to uproot and move you or your family up the road. So we, I think, understand the importance that we get the off-field bit right, especially when we're asking people to travel away from their homes, maybe away from the nucleus of their family. If they're coming up themselves, or if they're coming up with their partners, or they're coming up with their kids, then it is a big step, a big move. And footballers, everybody will assume footballers are used to that, but you have to remember that footballers have got families that maybe aren't used to that, or aren't involved in that football environment. So it's one that we feel that we need to be sharp on our thinking in it, because it is, whether we like it or not, people are going to react differently to move into the Highlands if they're coming up from down south, or they're coming up from the Central Belt, or coming from abroad. We think that if we can have a robust welfare package in place, then it will, long term, as you've just said, we'll benefit from on the pitch. And I think back on side offers another layer to what we're doing just now, because people can be embarrassed, people can be ashamed sometimes, people just don't want to maybe feel they want to speak or have an option here directly at the football club, and you have that third party, so to speak, or somebody sitting slightly outside the circle of the football club. We just feel that covers another niche for our players and our staff, having an option to be able to talk about how they're feeling.
Definitely. And again, one of the things you were touching on there is moving up to Highlands, because this is a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But it is daunting, and especially if I come up obviously and spoke to the team just before the end of the season, and there's guys for right down the bottom of England have moved all the way up here, and it's a completely different culture, completely different environment. So albeit it's maybe nice to come and visit, it must be a big thing to actually uproot completely and come up here and live and work up here.
Huge commitment. It is a huge commitment, and once we get the guys up, they see how beautiful part of the world it is. They see the options that they've got up here, they see the quality of life they've got up here, but that doesn't take away that sometimes that it doesn't take away from the challenge of actually living up here full time to the environment that maybe been used to previous. It is a slower pace in regarding home life. It is more remote than what some people are used to, but we feel that there's so much more benefits for that as well. So we do a really good, I believe, is a really good welcome pack for players that's coming to sign for Ross County, and it literally is maybe 100-page document that covers absolutely everything. As from moving up to walks they can go on, from hotels that they can stay in, from where they could best place to eat. Then has also got all the contacts for the likes of back on side and people that that are maybe third parties that we work in partnership with, and it genuinely that one, because it's okay when you're talking about it and you're speaking about it, but you know the novelty of signing with any club wears off eventually. So I'm liking this nice walk along the beach, but once you've done it a few times, it then just becomes the norm again. So it's making sure that we have enough, we give our staff and our players enough information and enough options to make sure that they're still enthused about where they're living and where they're playing.
And obviously you have experienced that for your time playing, because did you travel a bit much when you played?
My biggest move was when I left Ross County to go Ayr United.
Right.
So I'm an Edinburgh boy originally. It was no use me, I couldn't live in Inverness. It was no use me moving back to Edinburgh because I was still needing to travel to Ayr. So I then uprooted the family and moved down into Ayr. So I could then fully immerse myself in going out with you guys and stuff
culture.
like that. You know, but and the football down there. So it was, I had experienced that, and I also experienced obviously a number of serious injuries when I was at Ayr. And so that's another thing that we need to factor in, where people sign with the best intentions here, and I'll use Alex Samuel as an example that we signed this season. I mean, Alex was playing at Wickham, moved up the road to sign for Ross County. One of our signature signings in that season, and unfortunately snapped his cruciate. But Alex is committed to moving up. He's committed to moving his family, moving up, which we've already spoke about the challenges of that. But then you throw in an injury, and you throw in something that derails what you thought it was going to be like. And I think that's when there needs to be an awareness from the football club and from us all within the football club, that how difficult not only moving to the other side in Britain, but dealing then with what happens in the day-to-day challenges of football, and injuries, as we all know, is a massive part of that. I certainly had a tough period that I can remember, certainly from my time at Ayr, and I can remember the challenges that I had there, and I can remember what my coping bits were when I was injured and away from home, so to speak. So I think it's important that from our football club that everybody's aware of that, and we learn from experience that it is a challenge and it is difficult, and people will deal with it completely differently. So it's really important that we understand that there might be somebody that's comfortable talking, but we also understand that there may be somebody that's not comfortable speaking, and we just need to find how we can push the button for every player and every member of staff that we've got, that there is an option to be able to tell people how they're feeling, and to tell people, I suppose, what sort of support they need at that time. And that's the challenge. And every club will tell you it's not an easy challenge, but we need to be proactive in our thinking. And again, I'll resort back to organisations like Onside will tell you that, back Onside, it will tell you that there is an option there that people can share how they're feeling.
Aye. And it is important, because the point you make about you've got a team here, but you've got a team of individuals, and when it comes to like injuries, like off-field issues, mental health, whatever it is, they're all individuals that will deal with it differently and might need different measures put in place to help around about that. So it is important that there are different options for people.
One hat doesn't fit all.
No.
I think that's the big thing as well. And there's, whether we like it or not, there's still that macho bit in the men's game, in the professional
100%.
game, that people don't want to think that they're weak, or don't want to think that, or don't want people to think that they're weak, or don't want people to think that they're not dealing with things properly. So I think we've made massive strides. Didn't get me wrong, I genuinely do, across not only football but society as well. There are definitely more options. People are definitely opening up more than they did in the past. I think the clear message for everybody must be that we need to make sure that continues on that positive spiral, because if we then close down again, then we're going to not just have a problem in football, but we're going to have a problem in society as well. So the more that people can open up and speak, or the more options people have to open up and speak, because like we said, it may not always be the right option for a individual. But the more options that we do have, and again, back on side at Ross County is another option for our players and staff. There is other things that they can do that may help, but that is certainly another option. So I think it is. I think it's really important that that we do try and quash that stigma of that if you are struggling a little bit, then you're in some way weak. It's definitely not the case, as we all know. And it's just making sure that everybody else knows that as well.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things to break down is the stigma, do you know, and not because for a lack of trying, because there's loads of stuff been done, and you're right, there's definitely a positive impact being made in terms of steps towards reducing the stigma, but it must be difficult, and you'll know this better than me, but it must be difficult within like a changing room environment, because that is still a very much macho environment, and I see it in different walks of life, but within sporting, and especially in kind of male-dominated sports like football, where the environment probably isn't quite there yet, where in a changing room guys will be quite open, or they're all right about speaking up about how they feel, because there's probably still a part of that where the kind of macho side takes over, and not just for the point of view that they don't want to speak up, but other guys in the team maybe don't know how to handle that. Yep. Do you know what I mean? So like if I'm going in and saying, oh guys, my head's not in the right place, or I'm not feeling it today, or something's been happening, sometimes we still revert back to that whole let's make a joke about it, or do you know what I mean? Because people still don't know how to handle that.
Yeah, listen, we would be telling lies if we said that doesn't happen in dressing rooms or any or other environments. But I think that's where the importance bit is, for the people around maybe somebody that's struggling probably have the biggest part to play, and it is that maybe getting away. And probably, to be honest, it's probably how I would have reacted. It's probably, always revert back to, you'll find a joke in it somewhere, or you'll be able to smooth that over with some sort of humour or something like that. And I think where I've learned, and I've attended a number of the courses and I've completed it because I felt I wasn't good at it. I've got 3 kids myself, so it's not just in here. You want to try and identify things in your home life as well. And I've tried to educate myself in identifying signs, I suppose, and probably knowing that if a question did come to me, or if I did see a signal that I felt somebody was maybe struggling a little bit, then I've equipped myself enough to be able to ask the right question, or be able to, sometimes more importantly, listen to the questions. And that's probably another thing that I wasn't great at. They would be talking away, and we would have talk without actually listening. And sometimes that's the bit that people need, is actually somebody to listen to. And I think that's where, again, I think the awareness across the whole spectrum is definitely getting better, but it's one that we can continue to work on and try and educate everybody that not only how to speak, but how to listen.
How to listen, that's the important part.
That's really important.
Because it's not everybody that's going to struggle, but when somebody does, then it's important that we know how to recognise that and how to help with it, do you know?
We go on about, we've got a great team spirit here, and we've got a great bunch of boys. I mean, how often do you hear that?
No.
Spoken about at football clubs. Well, I think now it's part of that is actually that great bunch of boys, or that great team spirit they've got, incorporates, some form of mental health training, so you can identify if one of your teammates or one of your friends are struggling, that you ask the right question, and it might, like you said, and hopefully you might never have to ask the question, or you might never have to listen, and ideally that's what we all want. But I think I would much rather be equipped to be able to be that sounding board, I suppose, and then not go and solve the problem, because that's not your job either. If you can then signpost, support them to signpost them to the right people that are genuinely trained and understand fully how to deal with the situation, then it just feels like that I think that adds to a better team spirit, and I think that adds to that great bunch of boys that we hear regularly. So and I'm sure, in knowing how football clubs are and knowing the work that Back On Side do, that I don't think that's impossible to do. I don't think that we're asking too much for that knowledge to be shared and for that support to be given.
Well, it's no, as you said, it's no rocket science. We're not all here to solve everybody's problems, but it's just about maybe learning to recognise things and then signpost folk in the right direction. But see when you were saying, like, obviously, going back to the Ayr thing again, but you were saying, like, you had your ways of coping with things. How did you deal with that back then? Because you definitely didn't have the same sort of, probably, supports in the background then.
You're right. I've thought about it quite often through the years, and I thought I was dealing with it well at the time, but see, when I look back now, I probably wasn't dealing with it well at all. And I know experience and learning through your own ways is certainly the best way that I learn. But at the time, you probably think that I probably was struggling a lot more than I thought I was struggling, and probably could have done. I don't know. Again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but could have done maybe with a little bit of help from a third party. I certainly got enough help from my family, and my teammates rallied round in that bravado type of way, I would say. The club, I have to say, Ayr United were fantastic in how they looked after me when I was injured, both on and off the pitch. So absolutely no qualms there. But when you think about the actual mental health, how my mental health was at that time, I was probably think now that I was struggling more than, one, I realised, and two, I let on.
Do you know, it's funny because you sometimes, like, we were just saying that there, just about how you have that kind of try and laugh things off and the kind of bravado side of things, but I think there's still a certain element of that you need, like a kind of team spirit type thing, and like obviously, because that's how I met you, was through obviously my mates played with Ayr, and we're even talking about that now, about the good nights out and all that. So you look back fondly on some of them, and that probably, well, I don't know, but I would imagine that got you through some of the times, that is getting out and having a bit of a laugh and trying to just be in a good place. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, 100%, and I would always revert back to that. I think there's definitely a place for that.
Oh, 100%.
100%, and that's probably how I did get through it. Was because you had that good circle of friends around you, and you could laugh at yourself sometimes as well. I mean, I could sit here and tell you a couple of stories that genuinely I would be wholeheartely laughing at now. It happened 20 years ago. I know, and some of the people that were involved in it, I've not seen for years, but if I would guarantee that if we met tomorrow or we bumped into each other tomorrow, it would be the first thing that would be said, or certainly it would definitely be discussed before we left. So it had a real, positive impact for me at the time. And when I'm saying I think I was struggling more than I thought, at that time it seemed okay to me. I know I when I was out and when I was in and around other people, you do put that mask on. I think the bits that maybe I was struggling was when you weren't in that environment and you were at home and you were, you did have your wife and stuff, and you didn't want to then lump everything onto your wife, and you certainly wouldn't want to lump anything onto your kids. So you would then put that mask on, that, and I think that's the bit that's slowly got better. Because there has to be an element of humour in everything for me. Because if there's no, then then what have you got? You need to be able to laugh. You need to be able to look to the funny side and everything. And certainly during that time, there was a lot of stories that I do still laugh at today. And that
feel free to give us one.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there was one in Big Kerzo, the physio at Ayr at the time, was trying to look after me, which he did look after me, and he would come up every now and again with things to do. So Cut the Steigers was playing in Ayr that night, and he booked us into a box, and I've got crutches and I've got a big cast on my leg, and we were late. I think we might have been having a couple of beers somewhere else, and we headed in, and we didn't know that the door opened in the bay when we went into the box. And so we've come crashing into the box, and Curtis Steigers is in his first song. He's already started. We've crashed into the door. The seats have all went askew. Kerzo's behind me with loudmouth soup shouting as he started it, and everybody in the audience has turned, look up at the box. The box was that close we actually high-fived Curtis when we came in, and he then proceeded to stop his first song and say, oh, wait a minute, the royal box is coming in. And it was me and Kerzo and our partners that come in, so it was bits where Kerzo had planned that to be away from the gym, or to be away from the rehab, and to be away from being injured. And it was just wee silly things like that we speak really, really fondly of, and due to good people coming around, but it always boiled back to humour. The other one was the bowling club in Coylton. It makes me laugh all the time. I had a black lab called Jake at the time, and I used to walk the dog and say, I'll pop in for a beer. And it was a winter night, and I tied the dog up outside the door at the bowling club, because I couldn't get the dog into the bowling club, and I was only in myself. There was nobody in the bowling club, which again probably was a red flag that I was sitting in a bowling club myself. And Coylton, Jake was tied up outside. I gave him a couple of biscuits, and this boy, I can picture him coming in. He must have been about 80, and he comes shuffling in. And his glasses I swear to God, his glasses are squint, and his hat's squint. And he goes, right, what flipping idiot has tied a dog outside the bowling club door? And I never moved, I just turned round and I goes, I know, I seen it. I don't know whose dog that is. And there was nobody else in the bowling club apart from the person serving. The boy sat down and had a drink and proceeded to slaughter whoever ties their dog up outside. I finished my pint, said, listen, I hope you find out whose dog that is, and walked home. So it was always stupid stuff like that. But again, it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Aye, that's class. And if I remember rightly, Dolly Parton 95 was your karaoke song.
It was at the time, aye. I've moved on now. I went up to Billy Joel, Piano Man. I do a wee blind version of that. It's quite good as well. So it's a wee bit Ray Charles, Billy Joel, Piano Man.
I like it.
It's all good fun. And listen, the importance of good teammates and a good circle of people around you definitely gets you through the tough times as well.
Aye, it does.
As we all know.
It does. And that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes we do talk about mental health in a kind of serious note, and obviously for the right reasons. But there is an element of that where you've got. I think you're right, humour and trying to make light of some things. Not everything you can make light of, but when you can, it's important.
No, I think everybody knows the seriousness of mental health, and how challenging and how difficult and how you can laugh. You know, there's genuinely the bits, and gee whiz, that needs the utmost respect that gets. But I think what everybody's saving grace is, I suppose, is that everybody's got mental health.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you're definitely, whether it be good, whether it be bad, whether it be anything else, it's genuine that through a lifetime, everybody's going to experience positive mental health and negative mental health. That's a given. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just accepting that, that it's not solely you that's struggling with it, or you that's no enjoying what's going on. I think sometimes you take a little bit of solace from the fact that, that it does affect absolutely everybody, and you're never the one that, even though sometimes you might feel like it, that geez, why is it always me? I think sometimes if you can take that step back, or you can share with somebody, then there'll be people will be able to say a lot of different things that really are run parallel to how you're feeling at the time, and sometimes that's a wee bit reassurance that that it is life, I suppose.
Aye, definitely. What's the kind of plans for the club in terms of this season?
On pitch?
Aye.
I think obviously we're looking forward to another season in the Premier League. It's huge for our club. Malky and his staff done a wonderful job last year in getting a top 6 finish. Mm-hmm. We understand that maybe some teams in the Premier League last year underachieved. And we genuinely believe that they'll they'll be probably better equipped this season than they were last season. So we are under no illusions how difficult it's going to be for us. But we are quietly confident in the work that's went on, both on and off the pitch here at Ross County. And we feel that we've recruited well. We feel that we've got a balance to the team. And as you know as well as I do, that's all very well because we've not kicked a ball in the league yet, and it's all just on paper. But we feel that we've got ourselves in a position that we will be able to compete in the Premier League next year, and we'll look forward to that challenge, I suppose. It being a Highland club in what is a really, really tough Premier League. The city clubs are strong. The non-city clubs that are in there are established and have really, really strong roots for success in the Premier League as well. So we'll be deemed as one of the smaller clubs and one of the clubs that will have a challenge to stay in the league this year. And again, on paper that might be right, but we are in-house. We are quietly confident that we'll compete, and we'll compete well this year.
What about and I don't know if you want to give away any secrets here, Fergie, but like, see, in terms of the kind of mindset that you install within the players, how does that affect the performance, do you think?
Yeah.
And is there work done around that? Like,
yes. Malky, the manager, Malky Mackay, is really cranked up what we do in there, and there's a lot of mindset stuff that we've now got in place or have put in place that we feel we were able to perform the way we did last year because of the work that was done on that. So Malky is more than just coaching on the pitch. He's very much into that off-pitch coaching, which obviously is a lot around that mindset and culture and the environment that we create. We mirror that on the other side of the building as well, on the non-football side, where we launched a strategy at the beginning, or certainly halfway through last season that we're all working to. So there's clear boundaries and there's clear direction of travel. Again, everybody will have that in place and everybody will be doing the same. So we've no reinvented the wheel, but we feel that we've reinvented the direction of travel for our club. With our resources and what we've got at our disposal. So we're confident. Again, we've beefed up our commercial department. We've beefed up our media and comms department. We've tried to. We have identified where we were weak or where we needed to improve, and we've tried to make the improvements. We identified where we were doing okay, and we've tried to see how we can add layers to that. So there's been a lot of work. And COVID, to be fair, COVID was a big part in that because you had time to almost reflect more than you did when you were in that complete rat race of a normal football season. And we had a lot of thinking time, and we had more downtime than I think anybody's had that's been involved in football for years and years. So there was we seen it as an opportunity to push the reset button. We seen it as an opportunity to address some of the stuff that was maybe frustrating us, or we maybe feel we were letting ourselves down on. And we've tried to put things in place that would improve that. Now, time will only tell. We've seen improvement. We've seen shoots of the stuff that we had put in place last year, but we all understand that that's the short-term fix, and sometimes that's the easy bit. How do we sustain it? How do we continue to add layers as we're sustaining it to be what we want to be? And that's a team that's really competitive in the Premier League.
Good. So looking forward to the season?
Always look forward to the start of the new season. Listen, we are away to Tynecastle, we're home to Celtic, but that's the beauty of being in the Premier League for Ross County. We are a small club in regard to with 6,500 seats in the stadium, with 7,000 people in the village. So it's not, for us to be our first home game to be against Celtic, the champions, coming up, that will bring up their usual entourage and their army of supporters. It's not only just great for the football club, it's great for the town, it's great for the Highlands, and we feel that we have a really important part to play in that in service in the Highlands for football, and we'll continue to strive to do that and to give people the opportunity to be involved in the top level football in this country.
Good. And pre-seasons went pretty well?
Pre-seasons went great. Again, I've not looking at me, you can see I wasn't involved in it. But Malky's very thorough and very clear in what he wants from his group. They had 7 days in Verona. There was real high intensity stuff that we believe has prepared them physically. We've used the 3 League Cup games to date as a stepping stone into the start of the league. So we've changed our personnel. We've kept the non-negotiables the same, but we've managed to get everybody some game time. And if you look at the way that the League Cup groups went, we've slowly increasing the quality and increasing the standard and the level that we feel we'll be able to be where we need to be when we kick off against Hearts in a week's time.
Brilliant. So, no pre-season boxing around like that for Iceberg Ferg?
No, Iceberg Ferg has hung up his
Is he retired, has he?
5 fights with him at the bank.
5 fights, 5 wins.
Undefeated. I think there's only a couple of us have done that.
I remember him well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's the rope and the gloves have been hung up till the next time. Yeah.
No, listen, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you. Thanks very much for your time. I think we've not really got much more to kind of cover, but I appreciate again just spending the time up here, and hopefully we'll come back up and visit again sometime soon. And
no, definitely. Listen, it's been great catching up, and genuinely are grateful for the work that the back on side do. It's certainly ingrained in our thinking here at Ross County, and I'm sure our staff and our players appreciate that option to tap into the brilliant work that he's do, and from a personal point of view and from a club point of view, we thank you guys for that, and we look forward to continue what he's moving forward.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Top man.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. We'd really appreciate a wee like and share. If you get any feedback or any questions, please do get in touch on any of the social media pages on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, or check out the charity on backonside.co.uk. Cheers.